When I was eating dinner at my daughter's house, my neighbor called me with a shaking voice and asked, "Are you at home?" I said I was still at my daughter's place. He whispered, "Then who is inside your house right now?" My daughter just laughed out loud. Oof. Before we go any further, take a second to subscribe, hit the hype button, and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? I watched her laugh like he'd told a joke, her hand resting proudly on her husband's wrist, their perfectly staged dining room glowing with warm light and safe money. 30 years of inspecting cracked concrete and rusted steel taught me one thing. The worst failures always start with a small sound nobody takes seriously. That laugh was the crack. The rest of the night would be the collapse. The wine was expensive. I could tell by the way Derek poured it, angling the bottle just so, letting the label face outward. The playlist was something carefully curated, probably from one of those streaming services. Jazz, but not too challenging. Background music for people who wanted to seem sophisticated. Lauren's kitchen was spotless. Not the kind of clean that comes from actually using a space, but the kind that comes from staging one. Granite countertops without a single water spot. Stainless steel appliances that caught the light at precisely the right angles. A fruit bowl on the island with apples so perfect they looked fake. On the refrigerator, held up by little house-shaped magnets, were drawings from their kids. My grandkids I saw maybe 3 times a year. Crayon stick figures labeled Grandpa and Mommy. There were always new drawings, though I never saw the kids make them. In the hallway hung a black and white photo of me holding 6-year-old Lauren, both of us laughing. A brass plate below it read, "Our Rock." "Dad, you're quiet tonight," Lauren said across the table, wearing a silk blouse that cost more than my groceries. "Is everything okay?" "Just tired." "You're always tired lately." She exchanged a deliberate glance with Derek. "Maybe we should talk about that." Derek leaned forward. "We've been worried, Walter. Living alone in that big house. Nora's there. You know what I mean, someone younger, someone who can help. Nothing's going to happen. That's what everyone says until it does." Lauren touched my hand, fingers cold. "We're just trying to be prepared." Before I could answer, my phone rang. Alan Grady. The timing felt wrong. "Excuse me," I said, stepping into the hallway. "Dad, we're in the middle of dinner," Lauren called. I answered anyway. "Alan?" His voice was shaky. "Walter, are you at home?" "No, I'm at Lauren's." "Then someone's inside your house. I heard footsteps upstairs, and I saw a flashlight move past your bedroom window." My stomach tightened. "You're sure?" "I know the sounds of this place. Someone's in there. I'm coming home. Don't do anything." I returned to the dining room. Lauren and Derek were whispering, stopping when they saw me. "Everything okay?" Derek asked. "Alan says someone's in my house." Silence. Then Lauren laughed. A loud, sharp, genuine laugh. "Oh my God, seriously? Alan called because he thinks someone's in your house? Dad, he's 70. He's probably more confused than you." "He's not confused. Come on. You probably left a light on. Alan sees shadows and panics. This paranoia is exactly what we're talking about." Derek nodded. "Walter, this is becoming a pattern. Getting worked up over nothing. Maybe Alan's just reflecting fears you've been projecting. I need to go check." "Now?" Lauren's smile vanished. "We just sat down. I made your favorite. Pot roast. Something my mother used to make. It didn't matter. I have to go." Derek stood, placing a heavy hand on my shoulder. "Walter, breathe. You're overreacting to a call from a jumpy neighbor. Just finish dinner. Then I'll drive you over myself." I looked at his hand, then his calculating eyes. "I'm going now," I said, stepping back. Lauren stood too. "Dad, you're being ridiculous. You can't keep living like this, jumping at nothing." My neighbor called. "I'm going." "Fine," she snapped. "But when it's nothing, don't come crying to us." I grabbed my jacket and headed for the door. Behind me, Derek's voice followed. "This is exactly what I'm talking about, Lauren. He's not thinking clearly." Her reply was quieter, but I heard it. "I know. We need to move faster." I kept walking, their words trailing me into the cold night. The drive home took 15 minutes through quiet suburban streets. Every streetlight felt dimmer, every shadow heavier. By the time I turned onto my street, my hands were tight on the wheel. My house sat at the end of the block. The 2-story colonial Nora and I bought 42 years ago. We'd painted it, fixed the roof, replaced windows, every room a record of our lives. Tonight it looked wrong. Too dark. I always left lights on in the living room and kitchen. Now both were off. Alan stood on his porch in a cardigan and slippers, tense shoulders, tight jaw. He lifted a hand when he saw me. "I haven't seen anyone come out," he said. "No more lights either. Maybe they're gone." "Maybe. You want me to come with you?" "No. Stay here. Call the cops if something happens." The walk to the door felt longer than ever. My knee already protested. I tried the handle. Unlocked. I always locked it. I pushed the door open. Silence. Tight, unnatural silence. The living room looked normal, but the lamp I'd left on was off. In the kitchen, everything looked untouched, yet the air felt disturbed. My office door was open. I always closed it. Inside, the filing cabinet sat half open, drawers uneven. Papers weren't thrown around. They'd been moved intentionally, someone searching. The lockbox on my desk was closed, but freshly scratched around the keyhole. Then a creak upstairs. The third step on the back staircase. The one that always groaned. My heart kicked hard. I moved to the stairs, looking up into darkness. Another creak. Fast footsteps heading toward the back stairs. I climbed as quickly as my knee allowed. By the time I reached the landing, I heard the back door opening. At the bottom of the stairs, I saw a figure, dark clothes, cheap baseball cap. He glanced back for a split second, just enough to show panic, then bolted out the door. I followed, every step stabbing through my knee. The side yard flashed by. He reached the alley and jumped into a waiting car, engine already running, headlights off. I made it to the fence line just as the car sped off, tires squealing. Dark sedan, Camry or Accord. I caught the first 3 characters of the license plate and the final number. Breathless, bent over, feeling every year of my age, I finally turned back toward the house. Alan was waiting in my driveway. "I heard running," he said. "Was that them?" "Yeah." "Did you see their face?" "No, but I saw the car." Back inside, I took my time going through the office more carefully. Whoever had been here wasn't interested in electronics or jewelry. They'd gone straight for the files, my property documents, financial records, medical information. I found the appraisal first, tucked between 2 folders as if someone had been interrupted. It was recent, dated 2 weeks ago. Photos of every room, measurements, condition notes, market comparisons. At the bottom, the requesting party was listed, Derek's work email. My hands started shaking, not from fear, but anger. I kept searching. Found photocopies of documents I'd signed 2 years ago after my surgery, when I'd temporarily given Lauren power of attorney, standard, precautionary. Except these copies had been altered. Clipped to them were new drafts trying to extend that authority. Medical justifications I'd never seen, recommendations for long-term care placement for patient safety, notes in the margins, Lauren's handwriting, asking about legal requirements, facility costs, documentation needed. At the bottom was an unsigned letter addressed to Meadowbrook Senior Living, introducing me as a patient requiring memory care services and requesting information about immediate placement. I sat at my desk, staring at the papers. The house was quiet again. Just me and the evidence. Not a robbery, not random. Preparation, research. The groundwork for something much bigger. I pulled out my phone and called Nora. She was at her sister's place, helping with some family situation. She answered on the second ring. "Walter, it's late. What's wrong?" "Someone broke into the house." "What? Are you okay?" "I'm fine. They ran when I got here. But Nora, they weren't stealing. They were in my office, going through files." "What files?" "Property documents, medical records. I found an appraisal order from Derek, and drafts about putting me in a home." Long silence. When she spoke again, her voice was different, harder. "Tell me exactly what you found." I went through it all, reading parts of documents out loud. With every detail, I could hear her breathing change. "Do you remember," she said finally, "when Lauren was 12 and she took money from my purse for concert tickets?" "Yeah." "Do you remember what she said when I confronted her?" "I did." Lauren had cried, insisted she'd only borrowed it, that she was going to pay it back, that she'd done it because she wanted to surprise me with something nice. So convincing I'd almost believed her. "She said she did it for you," Nora continued, made herself the hero of her own theft. "I remember." "She's doing it again, Walter, taking what isn't hers and calling it love." "I know." "What are you going to do?" I looked around my office at the open drawers and scattered papers and scratched lockbox. 30 years of inspecting structural failures had taught me how to identify problems, how to write reports, how to recommend repairs, but it had never taught me what to do when the structure failing was my own family. "I don't know yet," I said, "but I'm not signing anything, and I'm not going anywhere." "Good. I'm coming home tomorrow." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do. Whatever's happening, we handle it together." After we hung up, I sat in the quiet office for another hour, going through every file, every document. I took photographs of everything. Documentation mattered. Evidence mattered. At some point, Alan knocked. I let him in, and he sat while I explained. He didn't say much, just listened, his old firefighter instincts reading the situation. "I've got security cameras," he said when I finished. "Front porch and backyard. If someone came through your side door, I probably caught them." "Can I see?" We went to his house. His living room was neat and spare, the home of someone who'd lived alone for a long time. He pulled up footage on his laptop, scrolling back to when I'd been at dinner. There, clear as anything. A figure in a baseball cap and dark jacket approaching my side door, pulling out a key, unlocking it, disappearing inside. The timestamp showed 17 minutes after I'd left for Lauren's. "Can you see his face?" I asked. Alan zoomed in, but the angle was wrong, and the cap hid features. "Not great, but look at this." He switched to the backyard camera. It showed the alley and part of my side yard. The same figure came running out about 40 minutes later, right when I would have gotten the phone call. He sprinted to a car parked in the alley, engine running, lights off. Alan paused and zoomed in on the license plate. Partial view, but readable. "That's more than I got," I said, taking a picture with my phone. "Yeah, and there's something else." He scrolled to another clip, earlier in the evening. "This car drove past twice before parking, like they were checking to make sure you were gone." He was right. The same sedan, cruising slowly past my house, pausing at the corner, driving away. 10 minutes later, it came back and parked. "Whoever this is," Alan said, "they knew your schedule. They knew you'd be gone." I thought about Lauren's insistence that I come to dinner, the way she'd called 3 times to confirm, the way Derek had made such a point of how much it would mean to them. "Send me these videos," I said. "Already done. Emailed them 5 minutes ago." I looked at this quiet man who'd lived next door for 15 years and never asked for anything. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This is going to get worse before it gets better." He was right. I went home and spent the rest of the night checking every room, every window and door. Around 3 in the morning, I finally went to bed, but I didn't sleep. Just lay there in the dark, listening to the house, thinking about my daughter's laugh. That careless, cruel sound that said she already knew who was in my house. That said she thought it was funny I was worried. That said she'd stopped seeing me as her father and started seeing me as an obstacle. I'd spent 30 years watching structures fail, learning to predict failure before it happened. The worst part wasn't seeing the crack. It was knowing that once it started, there was nothing you could do but watch it spread, unless you were the one controlling where it went. Morning came cold and gray. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, documents spread out. Property records, medical files, financial statements. My whole life laid bare. Nora called at 7. She'd be home by lunch. Then her tone shifted. "Have you called the police?" I hadn't. Cops would file a report, maybe investigate, maybe not. And even if they did, what charge could stick? Someone had a key, nothing was stolen. But the real reason was control. Involving police meant letting others decide what happened next. "I want to understand what I'm dealing with first," I said. "You know what you're dealing with. I know part of it. I want all of it." After we hung up, I dressed and drove to the coffee shop Lauren liked. Good light, overpriced lattes, people performing their lives. It was busy with the pre-work crowd. I took a seat near the window. Lauren arrived 20 minutes later, smiling, scanning the room and workout clothes that cost a fortune. She ordered something complicated, laughed with the barista, and joined a table of women. Her voice carried. "Balancing everything is impossible. Work, family, aging parents. Sometimes I feel like I'm drowning." A woman asked about me. "He's okay physically, but mentally," Lauren said, lowering her voice just enough to invite concern. "He's getting paranoid, imagining things. Last night he called from our house convinced someone broke in, but of course nothing happened." Sympathetic murmurs. Praise for her being a good daughter. "Family comes first," she said firmly. A cold clarity settled in my chest. The facade was flawless. The truth underneath was rotten. I stood so she'd notice me. Her eyes widened before she masked it with concern. "Dad, what are you doing here?" "Getting coffee." She touched my arm gently. "How are you feeling after last night?" "Fine." "You seemed shaken. We were worried." "Were you?" She guided me to a corner table. "Be honest, Dad. Did you actually find anything wrong, or was it just anxiety?" "Someone was in my house." "Are you sure? Older people sometimes misinterpret." I saw him run out the back door. Her concern shifted. Not for me, but for whatever she was trying to protect. "You chased someone? That's dangerous. What if they'd been armed?" My office was ransacked. Or just messy. I've seen your office. I showed her photos, drawers open, papers everywhere, the scratched lockbox. Does this look messy to you? She stared at the photo, then at me. Did you call the police? Not yet. Why not? I wanted to know what they were looking for. And do you? I'm starting to. We looked at each other across the small table. The coffee shop noise faded into background static. For just a moment, we were both completely honest. No performance, no pretense. She knew that I knew, and I knew that she knew I knew. Dad. Her voice dropped lower, warmth draining out. Whatever you think is happening, you're wrong. Derek and I are trying to help you. That's all we've ever done. If you can't see that, if you're so paranoid that you think your own family is out to get you, then maybe that's proof right there that you need help. What kind of help? Professional help, medical help, a place where people can keep an eye on you, make sure you're safe, make sure you're not putting yourself or others at risk. Others like who? Like yourself, like neighbors who might get hurt if you go chasing imaginary intruders through alleys in the middle of the night. He wasn't imaginary. Then show me proof. I almost pulled out my phone again, almost showed her Alan's security footage. But something stopped me. Once you show your hand, the game is over. I will, I said, when it matters. She leaned back, crossing her arms. You're being difficult on purpose. You know that, right? You're making this harder than it needs to be. Making what harder? Taking care of you, helping you, making sure you have a good quality of life in your retirement years. I'm having a fine quality of life. Are you, living alone in that big house? No family around? Imagining break-ins and getting into confrontations with strangers? I'm not alone. Nora lives with me. Nora's gone half the time visiting her sister. You know that. And when she's there, what is she really providing? She's not a nurse. She's not a caregiver. She's just another old person trying to pretend everything's fine when it's not. I felt my hands tighten on the edge of the table. Be careful how you talk about my wife. I'm just being realistic. I love Mom, but she's not equipped to handle this situation any more than you are. You need professional help, real help, and the sooner you accept that, the easier this is going to be for everyone. Easier for you, you mean? Her eyes went cold. What's that supposed to mean? It means I found documents in my office last night. Appraisals, care facility letters, plans I never agreed to. Those aren't plans. Those are options. Research. We're trying to be prepared for when you need help, not scrambling at the last minute. I don't need help. You're 64 years old, Dad. You have a bad knee. You take medication for your heart. You live in a house that's too big for you to maintain. At some point, you're going to need help whether you want to admit it or not. All we're doing is making sure we're ready when that time comes. And if I disagree about when that time is? She leaned forward, and for the first time, real frustration broke through the carefully maintained facade. Then you're being selfish. You're thinking about what you want instead of what's best for the people who care about you. Do you have any idea how stressful this is? Worrying about you constantly, wondering if you're taking your medication, if you're eating right, if you're going to fall down the stairs with no one around to help? That sounds like your problem, not mine. It's everyone's problem when you end up in the hospital because you were too stubborn to accept help. I'm not in the hospital. Not yet. We stared at each other. The conversation had shifted from performance to something uglier, something raw. This was the real Lauren behind the Instagram posts and charity galas. I should go, I said, standing up. She stood too. Dad, wait. I didn't mean... Yes, you did. I'm just worried about you. We all are. Please just think about what I'm saying. Talk to Derek. Let us help you figure this out. I'll think about it. Promise? Sure. She hugged me, holding on longer than necessary. Her friends were watching, seeing the devoted daughter comforting her difficult father. When she pulled back, her eyes were wet. Actual tears, summoned on command. I love you, Dad. I just want you to be safe. I know, I said, and I did know. I knew exactly what she wanted. I walked out and sat in my truck for a long time, watching people come and go, watching Lauren return to her table and immediately start talking to her friends. My phone buzzed. A text from Derek. Lauren told me you two talked. Let's meet up later. I have some ideas that might help. I deleted the text without responding. Then I drove to the bank. Martha Quinn worked at the downtown branch, one of those glass and steel buildings, trying hard to look modern. I'd banked there 20 years. She'd helped me refinance the house, set up the grandkids' accounts, always treated me like a person, not a number. I asked for her at the front desk. 5 minutes later, she appeared with her professional smile. "Walter, good to see you. Come on back." Her office was small and neat, photos of her kids on the desk. She gestured for me to sit. "What can I help you with today?" "I need to know if anyone besides me has been making inquiries on my accounts." Her smile faded. "What kind of inquiries?" "Financial information, property valuations, access attempts." She typed for a few minutes, expression tightening. "Mr. Hayes, why are you asking?" "Because I think someone's been trying to access my information." "Do you have a reason to believe that?" "Yes." She looked back at the screen. "There have been several inquiries in the past 6 months. Credit checks, property appraisals, pre-approval applications for lines of credit using your house as collateral." My stomach dropped. "I didn't authorize those." "No, you didn't, but they were submitted by people claiming to be family members with financial power of attorney." "I don't have an active financial power of attorney." Martha's concern sharpened. "Then we have a problem." She printed the logs. Pages of access attempts, all listing Lauren or Derek as authorized representative. "Can they do this?" I asked. "Not legally, but systems don't always flag these immediately, especially if someone presents themselves as having authority." "What does this mean for my accounts?" "Nothing's been compromised yet, but someone is trying very hard to position themselves to access your assets." She hesitated. "Is this your daughter and son-in-law?" "Yes." "Do you want to press charges?" "That would mean courts, records, making everything official, but also solid documentation." "Not yet. I just want everything locked down." "We can do that," she said. "The safest option is a trust. You and your wife as co-trustees. Any changes require both signatures here at the bank." "How long will that take?" "If you have your documents, we can do it today. But Walter, once they realize you've done this, they'll know you're on to them, and they may escalate." "I understand." She studied me, then pulled out a thick folder. "All right, let's start." We spent 3 hours creating the trust, transferring assets, updating access protocols, changing beneficiaries. She walked me through every clause. When we finished, the house was no longer solely mine. It belonged to a trust controlled by Nora and me, with a carefully chosen remainder beneficiary, a veterans charity Lauren and Derek had never heard of. Any attempt to use my property as collateral now required both trustees to appear in person, with identification, with witnesses, with documentation that couldn't be faked or forged. "This is solid," Martha said, handing me copies of everything. "They can't touch this. Not legally." "What about illegally?" She didn't answer right away. "Keep these documents somewhere safe. Make copies. Give a set to someone you trust who isn't family. And Walter? Watch your back. I've seen situations like this before. They don't usually end quietly." I thanked her and left the bank with a thick envelope and a feeling somewhere between relief and dread. My assets were protected, the house locked down, a wall built between me and what they wanted. But walls only matter if people respect them. And I was realizing I couldn't count on that anymore. When I got home, Nora's car was already in the driveway. She met me at the door, hugged me with a fear I hadn't seen in years. "Tell me everything," she said. I did. I laid out the break-in photos, Alan's footage, the bank inquiry logs, the trust papers. It looked like evidence at a crime scene. She read everything twice, her expression turning colder. "They're not going to stop?" "I know. They'll push harder. Try to make you look incompetent." "I know. So what do? "We let them push," I said. "We document everything, every lie, every manipulation, and when they've gone too far, we destroy them." "Yeah." She gave a small, sharp smile. "Good." That night, we reviewed everything again, mapping out next steps, identifying weak spots. It felt like preparing for war. Because it was. Then my phone rang. "Lauren." I almost ignored it, but Nora nodded. "Dad? Where have you been? I've been calling all day." "Out. Errands." "What kind?" "Just errands." A pause. "Derek wants to take you to lunch tomorrow. He found some nice care facilities you should see." "I'm not interested." "Dad, you need to at least look. What if something happens and we need to make quick decisions? Wouldn't you rather have input?" "Nothing's going to happen." "You don't know that. Please, just lunch. Derek's really worried." Nora mouthed, "Document." "Fine, lunch." "Really? Great. Italian place near the mall? Noon." "Fine." "You're making the right choice. We just want to help." "I know what you want." She ignored the tone. "See you tomorrow. Love you." I hung up without replying. "What are you thinking?" Nora asked. That it's time to stop reacting and start controlling where this goes. And where is that? Somewhere public, I said. Somewhere they can't spin the story. Where everyone can see who they really are. You'll need more evidence. I know. That's why I'm going to lunch. She understood immediately. You're going to record it. Every word. That's risky. So is doing nothing. We sat in silence, both thinking about how far we were willing to go. Finally, Nora said, When Lauren was little, do you remember what she wanted to be? A teacher. No, before that, when she was really small. She said she wanted to help people. But do you remember how she actually was? Nora asked. I did. Lauren always organizing kids, always in charge, giving old toys away only if everyone saw her generosity, volunteering only for things that got her name in the newsletter. She wanted people to see her helping, I said. She wanted credit without cost, to look good without being good. I think she stopped knowing the difference. When did it change? I asked. I don't think it ever did, Nora said. We just stopped noticing. That hurt more than I liked. The possibility that she'd always been this person, and I hadn't wanted to see it. But hurt didn't matter now. Truth did. Evidence did. Tomorrow I'd sit across from Derek, let him pitch his plan to take my house, my independence, my dignity. I'd nod, ask questions, act unsure, and I'd record every word. The Italian restaurant was one of those chains pretending to be authentic, with fake brick walls and Chianti bottles. Derek was already there, sitting in a back booth with a leather folder open like a sales presentation. He stood when he saw me. Walter, thanks for coming. I ordered appetizers. Hope that's okay. Fine. We sat. Inside the folder were glossy brochures. Meadowbrook Senior Living, Sunrise Heights Assisted Care, Heritage Village. All the names trying to make getting old sound like a vacation. My phone recorded from my jacket pocket, tested that morning to capture every word. So, Derek began, relaxed and rehearsed, I've been researching care options. Not because you need them now, but because it's smart to be prepared. And some of these places are impressive. He spread out the brochures like a salesman. These aren't nursing homes. They're communities. Apartments with support staff, activities, chef-prepared meals. Honestly, nicer than most regular apartments. I'm sure they're nice. They are. And you'd still have independence, your own space, your own schedule, with help available 24/7 if something happens. The photos showed smiling seniors doing yoga and playing chess. No one looked sick, scared, or forced. And how much do these places cost? I asked. You don't need to worry about that, he said smoothly. Between retirement, Social Security, and the equity in your house, it's completely affordable. The equity in my house. Exactly. Most people don't realize how much wealth they have in real estate. If you sold or used it as collateral, you'd have more than enough for a very comfortable arrangement. And the house? That depends on you. Sell it and invest the money, or keep it and refinance. Either way, it works for you. He said it so casually, like giving up my home of 40 years was just smart planning. Have you talked to Lauren about this? Of course. We've been researching together. She loves you, Walter. She's terrified something will happen and she won't be there. This gives her peace of mind. What about what I want? That's what we're trying to figure out. What do you want? I thought about my life, my work, my home. I want to live in my own house, the one I renovated myself. I want to wake up in my bed, make coffee in my kitchen, and not ask permission to go anywhere or do anything. Derek nodded like he was really listening. I get that. I completely get that. But what if we could find a way to give you that same independence in a safer environment? A place where you're not worrying about maintenance or stairs or being alone if something goes wrong? I'm not alone. Nora's there. When she's not visiting her sister, which is a lot lately. He paused, letting that sink in. And no offense, but Nora's not getting any younger either. What if something happens and neither of you can help the other? Then we call 911 like normal people. And what if you can't get to the phone? What if you fall or have a heart attack or... I'm not going to have a heart attack. You don't know that. You're on medication, Walter. You have risk factors. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just being realistic about what could happen. The waiter came by and took our orders. Derek got something complicated with multiple courses. I got spaghetti. When the waiter left, Derek pulled out another document from his folder. This one wasn't a brochure. It was official-looking, dense with text and signature lines. This is a healthcare directive, he said. It's basically a document that says who makes medical decisions for you if you can't make them yourself. Most people have them drawn up as a precaution. I have one. It names Nora. Right, but this one would add Lauren and me as secondary decision makers, just in case something happens to both of you or if Nora's not available in an emergency. It's standard practice for families to have multiple people listed. I don't need to add anyone. You don't need to, but wouldn't it be smart to? Just as a backup? No. His smile tightened. Can I ask why not? Because I don't want to. Walter, I'm trying to help you here. We both are. But you're making this very difficult. I'm not making anything difficult. I'm just saying no to things I don't want. Even if they're in your best interest? You don't get to decide what's in my best interest. Someone has to, and if you're not thinking clearly, I'm thinking perfectly clearly. Are you? He leaned back, his expression shifting from friendly to something harder. Because from where I'm sitting, you're exhibiting a lot of concerning behaviors. Paranoia about break-ins that probably didn't happen. Refusing reasonable help from family. Isolating yourself. These are classic signs of cognitive decline. I passed a cognitive test last month. Tests can be fooled, especially by someone who's still functional enough to fake it in a controlled setting. Real-world behavior is what matters. And your real-world behavior is raising red flags. What behavior? Calling your daughter in the middle of dinner, frantic about an imaginary intruder, chasing shadows through your backyard, refusing to consider care options that would objectively improve your safety and quality of life. This is exactly the kind of irrational resistance we see in people who can't accept that they need help. The intruder wasn't imaginary. I have proof. What proof? The word of another elderly neighbor who's probably just as confused as you are? Come on, Walter, be honest with yourself. I have video. That stopped him. Just for a second. What video? Security footage from Alan's cameras shows someone using a key to get into my house, shows their car, shows the license plate. Derek was quiet, calculating. And you're sure it wasn't just a friend? Someone you gave a key to and forgot about? I know who I've given keys to. Memory isn't always reliable at your age. Small details get mixed up. Times get confused. It's completely normal. I'm not confused. Then show me the video. I almost did. Almost pulled out my phone right there and ended the whole charade. But something stopped me. Showing your best evidence too early was how you lost. I will, I said. When it matters. When it matters? Derek's voice went cold. You're accusing someone of breaking into your house, but you won't show the proof? That doesn't sound like someone who's thinking clearly. That sounds like someone who's paranoid and confused. I'm not paranoid. No? Then why are you recording this conversation? A chill ran through me. I hadn't touched my phone since sitting down. It was in my pocket, recording app running, microphone picking up everything. I don't know what you're talking about, I said. Yes, you do. I can see the outline of your phone in your jacket. I can see the way you positioned yourself so it would pick up better audio. I've been in enough meetings to know when someone's recording without permission. He reached across the table, hand extended. Give me the phone. No. Walter, you're recording a private conversation without consent. That's illegal in this state. Give me the phone or I'll call the cops and you can explain to them why you're secretly recording your own family. I'm allowed to record my own conversations. Not in this state, you're not. This is a two-party consent state, which means both of us have to agree to be recorded, and I don't agree. So either you give me that phone, or we have a very different conversation with law enforcement. I looked at him across the table. The friendly mask was gone. This was the real Derek. Cold, calculating, ready to threaten to get what he wanted. I'm not giving you my phone. Then you're admitting you recorded illegally. I'm admitting I'm done here. I stood, but Derek stood faster, blocking the booth. Sit down, he said quietly. We're not finished. Yes, we are. Walter, listen carefully. You can fight, but you'll lose. We have documentation, witnesses to your decline, financial records proving you can't manage your affairs. What financial records? The ones showing irrational decisions, changing accounts, setting up trusts with random charities instead of your family, cutting off people who care. How do you know about the trust? He smiled, dark and confident. I have friends at the bank. People talk. You're not competent anymore, Walter. Erratic, paranoid, making reckless choices. Martha wouldn't. No, she wouldn't. But others who see account activity? They talk when someone like me expresses concern about an elderly relative. My stomach tightened. He'd known everything. About the trust, about the recording, probably even before this meeting. You can't force me to sign anything. I don't need to. I just need a judge to declare you incompetent. And with what we have, your paranoia, your behavior, your refusal of help, that won't be hard. Lauren won't testify. Won't she? She's already telling friends how worried she is. Put her on the stand in tears, describing your decline. It's compelling. You're not getting my house. I don't want your house. I want you safe. If the house has to be sold to pay for care, that's just reality. The house is in a trust. For now. Trusts can be challenged, especially ones created by someone not in their right mind. We'll argue you were confused or manipulated. A judge will overturn it. No judge will believe that. An elderly man, paranoid, refusing help, suddenly transferring major assets to an unknown charity, that's exactly what judges believe. He leaned closer. Here's what happens now. You delete the recording, you apologize, you schedule a visit to one of these facilities. Just a visit. If you cooperate, we avoid court. And if I don't? Then Lauren files for guardianship. We bring medical professionals, our doctors. They'll confirm you can't live independently. The court makes Lauren your guardian. She controls everything, your home, your money, where you live. That won't happen. It will. I've already talked to lawyers. With evidence, it's straightforward. I felt trapped. Every move I'd made, he'd countered. I need to think, I said. Think all you want, but this ends either way. Cooperate and keep your dignity. Fight, and it becomes public. But you're not staying in that house alone. It's unsafe, and it's not what's best for the family. Best for your project, I said. His expression didn't change. My project brings jobs, revenue, housing. It's bigger than one old man's stubbornness. It's my house. It's equity. Equity should be productive, not sitting empty while you rattle around alone. I pushed past him. He didn't stop me, but his voice followed. You have 1 week, Walter. After that, we file. You don't want this public. I walked out to my truck, hands shaking. But the phone in my pocket recorded every word. I drove home in a fog, Derek's threats echoing in my head. Nora was waiting. One look at my face, and she knew. Tell me. I played the recording, all of it. Derek's threats, his manipulation, his admission about having sources at the bank. When it finished, Nora's face was stone. He just confessed to accessing your private financial information illegally. He said people talk. That's not technically illegal. It is if he induced them to violate privacy policies, but he's right about the optics. If they file for guardianship, we'll be fighting uphill. So what do we do? She was quiet, thinking. Then, we flip the script. Instead of defending, we attack. We go public first, but not with accusations. With facts, documentation, video, we let people draw their own conclusions. Where? Where's Derek most vulnerable? I thought about it. His investor presentation for the Riverfront project, 2 weeks from now, city officials, investors, media. Nora smiled, sharp and cold. Perfect. That's where he built his reputation. That's where we tear it down. Over the next week, we prepared. Alan gave us copies of all security footage. I documented every conversation, every text, every call. Martha provided statements about unauthorized inquiries. I got copies of all the forged documents. 4 days before the presentation, Troy showed up. I was leaving the clinic after a follow-up when I heard footsteps behind me, deliberate, matching my pace. Troy was leaning against my truck in the parking garage. Mr. Hayes, we need to talk about how you're making things difficult for people who care about you. I'm fine. Are you? He pushed off the truck, moving closer. Because it looks like you're confused, paranoid, the kind of person who might have an accident. He put a hand on my shoulder, pressing down. Then he shoved me. 30 years of muscle memory took over. The body shot came fast and tight, right under his ribs. He gasped, stumbling back. I used his momentum to pivot him into the concrete pillar. His phone clattered to the ground. He tried to swing, but his form was wrong, wild and angry. I stepped inside his reach, hooked him once more, watched him crumple. Tell Derek I'm doing just fine. Troy staggered away. His phone stayed behind. I picked it up later. Messages between him and Derek, photos from inside my house, conversations about pressure, escalation, timing. Old man's tougher than expected. Might need to go harder. Just scare him. Don't hurt him. We need him cooperative. Lauren's getting impatient. Says we should have filed guardianship already. Not yet. Once he signs into a facility voluntarily, it's easier. I showed everything to Nora. She read through it twice. This is conspiracy. Attempted elder abuse. Will it hold up? In court? Maybe. In public opinion? Absolutely. The night before Derek's presentation, Lauren called. Dad, I wanted to check in. I'm fine. Really? Because Derek said lunch got tense. Did he tell you he threatened me? Pause. He didn't threaten you. He was trying to help you understand your options. He said you'd testify against me in court. I would never. Dad, you're twisting things. This is exactly what we're worried about. He said he'd get me declared incompetent. That's a last resort. We don't want that. We just want you safe. Her voice broke. Why can't you see we love you? Because you're not trying to help me. You're trying to take my house. We're not trying to take anything. God, Dad, how can you think that? What have you actually done for me, Lauren, besides tell everyone how hard it is? Long silence, cold. I'm done, she said finally. I'm done trying to help someone who doesn't want it. When you're ready to be reasonable, call me. She hung up. Nora looked at me. She's setting up her narrative. Frustrated daughter, ungrateful father. They're not filing papers. We're ending this tomorrow. The Civic Center was packed when we arrived. Investors in expensive suits, city officials, local business owners, a journalist from the city paper. Lauren was working the room, shaking hands, laughing. When she saw us, she stopped cold. Dad, Mom, I didn't know you were coming. Derek invited me weeks ago, said I was his inspiration. Her smile was strained. Right. Find a seat anywhere. We sat in the back with Alan. The room filled quickly. Derek took the stage, looking confident. Good evening. Thank you all for being here. Tonight I want to talk about family, about legacy, about building communities that last. The screen behind him lit up with architectural renderings, modern condos, happy families. This project isn't just development. It's about honoring generations while creating opportunities. A photo appeared. Me and Lauren, standing in front of my house. This is my father-in-law, Walter Hayes. For 30 years, he inspected the bones of this city. He taught me that a strong foundation is everything. Applause rippled through the room. Walter's house represents exactly what we're preserving. History. Stability. That's why one of the key assets backing this project is that very house. The screen changed to financial projections. And there, in small print, my address listed as collateral. I pulled out my phone and sent the emails. To every investor I'd identified. To Martha. To the city official on the development board. To the journalist. Each email contained the same package. Alan's security footage, forged documents, bank records, Troy's messages. Within minutes, phones started buzzing. Investors checked screens. Derek sensed something wrong. A city official stood. Mr. Becker, I've just received troubling information. Can you explain an email about unauthorized use of an elderly resident's property? Derek's smile froze. I'm sorry, what? I'm reading messages suggesting you've been attempting to gain control of Walter Hayes' house without consent. Messages discussing intimidation and falsified documents. The room erupted, investors talking over each other. Derek held up his hands. There's been a misunderstanding. Walter is my father-in-law. We're trying to help him. Help him? Another investor stood. I'm looking at security footage of someone breaking into his house. That's not what it looks like. Then what is it? I stood. The room's attention swiveled to me. I walked down the aisle toward the stage. Walter, Derek said, voice tight. This isn't the time. Actually, I think it's exactly the time. I climbed the steps. Derek moved to block me, but I stepped around him, taking the microphone. My name is Walter Hayes. That's my house Derek just showed. I never gave him permission to use it. Silence. For 6 months, my daughter and her husband have been trying to convince everyone I'm losing my mind. They've broken into my house, forged documents, and hired someone to intimidate me. All so they could take my property for this project. Lauren was crying, but it looked like panic. Dad, that's not true. We were trying to protect you. Protect me from what? From yourself. The mask was gone, her voice rising. You're stubborn and selfish. We were going to take care of you, and you act like we're trying to hurt you. You were going to lock me away and steal my house. It's not stealing if it's for your own good. The room erupted. Derek grabbed Lauren's arm, trying to pull her away, but she jerked free. You want the truth? Yes, we needed the house. Yes, we were going to move him into assisted living, but we weren't abandoning him. He's old, he's alone, he's not capable anymore. I passed a cognitive test last month, I said quietly. Perfect score. Her face went white. I also put my house in a trust last week. You have no claim to it. Derek lunged at me, composure breaking. He grabbed for my phone, trying to shove me back, but I'd been expecting it. When he shoved, I stepped into it, using his momentum to spin him off balance. My hook caught him in the ribs. He stumbled backward into the podium. Security was moving toward the stage, but hesitated when they saw Derek had attacked first. He tried to get up, gasping, his face red with rage and humiliation. "You can't do this," he wheezed. "You're ruining everything." "No," I said. "I'm just making sure the collapse happens on my terms." I looked out at the audience. Investors were leaving, city officials were on their phones, the journalist was recording everything, eyes wide with the kind of expression that meant this story was going to be front page. Lauren was still at the edge of the stage, mascara running, her perfect image shattered. She looked at me with something between hatred and desperation. "Dad, please. You don't understand what you're doing. This project was going to change everything. We were going to be set for life. The kids' college funds, our future, everything. By stealing my house. By using an asset that was just sitting there. You're going to pass eventually anyway. We were just trying to access what would be ours eventually." The honesty was almost refreshing. No more pretense about my safety or my well-being. Just the raw truth. They wanted what was mine, and they wanted it now. "It's never going to be yours," I said. "The trust makes sure of that." Derek finally pulled himself up, leaning against the podium. "You think you've won? You think this is over? We'll challenge that trust. We'll get doctors to evaluate you. We'll prove you weren't competent when you set it up. Good luck with that." I pulled out my phone and held it up. "I have recordings of every conversation, every threat, every manipulation, including the one from lunch where you admitted to accessing my financial information illegally and detailed your entire plan." His face went from red to gray. "That recording is inadmissible. Two-party consent state." "For court, maybe, but not for the press." I looked at the journalist, who was still recording. "Not for public opinion, not for the investors who just found out you were planning to use fraudulently obtained collateral." An investor in the front row stood up. "Are you telling us that the primary asset backing this project was obtained through elder abuse?" "We didn't abuse anyone," Lauren said desperately. "We were helping him." "By breaking into his house?" Another investor was on his feet now. "By forging documents? By hiring someone to intimidate him?" "That's not... We never..." Troy was just supposed to talk to him. "I have the messages," I said. Troy's messages to Derek, discussing escalation tactics, photos he took inside my home during the break-in. It's all time-stamped, documented, backed up in multiple locations. The exodus began in earnest then. Investors gathering briefcases, making calls, heading for exits. A city official approached the stage with 2 security guards. "Mr. Becker, we're going to need to have a conversation about the representations you made to the development board regarding your assets and collateral." Derek tried to smile, to salvage something. "I can explain everything. There's been a misunderstanding about..." "Save it for the formal inquiry." The official turned to me. "Mr. Hayes, would you be willing to make a statement?" "Absolutely." "Dad, please." Lauren grabbed my arm. "Please don't do this. Think about your grandchildren. Think about what this will do to them. Their mother investigated for elder abuse. Do you want them to grow up with that?" I looked at her hand on my arm, then at her face. For just a moment, I saw my little girl again, the one who used to hold my hand at crosswalks, the one who cried when she scraped her knee and only I could make it better. Then I remembered her laugh when Alan called, that careless, cruel sound that had started all of this. "You should have thought about your children before you decided to steal from their grandfather," I said, pulling my arm away. The journalist approached, camera still rolling. "Mr. Hayes, can I ask you a few questions?" "Not right now, but I'll make a full statement tomorrow, with my lawyer present." Derek made one last attempt. "Walter, we can still fix this. We can work something out. I'll drop the project. We'll forget about the house. Just don't press charges. Please, for Lauren's sake." "You had 6 months to work something out. You chose intimidation, forgery, and conspiracy instead." "I was trying to build something, to create something that mattered. By destroying me. You're one person. This project would have helped hundreds of families. Then you should have found a legal way to fund it." Security was escorting Derek off the stage now. Lauren followed, still crying, still trying to maintain some shred of dignity. As they passed, she looked at me one more time. "I'll never forgive you for this," she said. "I know." And that was it. They were gone, escorted out through a side exit while the remaining investors and officials gathered in small groups, talking in urgent, angry voices. The journalist was interviewing the city official who'd first stood up. Alan appeared at my side, putting a hand on my shoulder. "You okay?" "Yeah. That took guts. Or stupidity. Sometimes they're the same thing." Nora joined us, wrapping her arm around my waist. "Let's go home." We walked out through the main entrance. The evening air was cool and clean. In the distance, I could hear sirens. Someone had probably called the police about the disturbance. "What happens now?" Nora asked as we reached the truck. "Now they investigate. Now lawyers get involved. Now everything comes out into the light." "And Lauren?" I thought about that. My daughter, my little girl, the person who'd decided I was worth more as an asset than as a father. "She made her choice," I said. "She'll have to live with it." The next week was a blur of lawyers and statements and reporters. The story hit the local news first, then got picked up regionally. "Local developer accused of elder abuse scheme," ran the headline, with photos of Derek and Lauren at previous charity events, smiling their perfect smiles. The police opened an investigation. Troy was arrested first, singing like a bird the moment they offered him a deal. He gave them everything: the break-ins, the pressure tactics, the messages from Derek detailing the entire plan. Derek tried to lawyer up, to claim everything was a misunderstanding, but the evidence was overwhelming. The forged documents, the unauthorized financial inquiries, the security footage, my recordings. Lauren called 3 times the first day. I didn't answer. On the 4th call, I finally picked up. "Dad, please, you have to help us. Derek's being charged. They're talking about me being charged, too. This is destroying our lives." "You destroyed your own lives." "We were trying to help you." "No, you were trying to help yourselves." "I'm your daughter. Doesn't that mean anything?" "You stopped being my daughter when you decided I was just a problem to be solved." She was crying. Real tears this time, not performed ones. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. We made mistakes, but we never wanted to hurt you. We needed my house, I know. Not just the house, the security, the future. Derek's project was supposed to change everything for us. By changing everything for me. You're old, Dad. You don't have that many years left anyway. We just wanted to access what would eventually be ours." And there it was again, the honesty that cut deeper than any lie. In her mind, she'd already inherited. I was just being stubborn by still being alive and in control. "The house will never be yours," I said. "It goes to charity when I pass. Both Nora and I made sure of that." Silence. Long and cold. "You cut me out of your will. You cut yourself out when you broke into my home." "I hate you," she said, voice breaking. "I hate you for this." "I know." She hung up. That was the last time we spoke. The investigation continued. The district attorney's office got involved. Derek was charged with conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted financial exploitation of an elderly person, and criminal trespass. Lauren was charged as an accomplice. Their lawyer tried to make a deal, to paint them as desperate people who'd made bad choices but didn't deserve prison time. The DA wasn't interested. Elder abuse cases had become a priority, and this one was high profile enough to send a message. Martha called to apologize. She'd figured out that one of the newer tellers had been the leak, someone Derek had befriended and casually pumped for information. The teller was fired. Martha offered to testify about the unauthorized inquiries if needed. Alan became a local hero of sorts. The news ran a story about the vigilant neighbor who'd spotted the break-in and helped expose the scheme. He handled it with his usual quiet dignity, deflecting praise and saying he'd just done what anyone would do. My grandchildren were another matter. Lauren's kids, who I barely knew, who I'd seen maybe 3 times a year. Their mother was facing criminal charges. Their father's business was collapsing. Their perfect suburban life was disintegrating. I thought about calling, about trying to explain to children who wouldn't understand why Grandpa had done this to Mommy, but what would I say? That their mother had tried to steal from me? That she'd hired someone to intimidate me? That she'd forged documents and broken into my home? They'd learn the truth eventually. They'd have to decide for themselves what it meant. 2 weeks after the presentation, I got a letter from Lauren's lawyer, a formal request to drop the charges, to let them make restitution, to handle this within the family. The letter was full of phrases like unfortunate misunderstanding and mistakes made on both sides. I threw it away. Nora and I settled into a new routine. Quiet mornings with coffee, afternoon walks around the neighborhood, Alan coming over for dinner once a week. The house felt more like home than it had in months, now that I wasn't constantly looking over my shoulder. "Do you regret it?" Nora asked one evening as we sat on the back porch. "Which part?" "Any of it. All of it." I thought about that, about Lauren's face when her mask had finally cracked, about Derek's desperation as his project collapsed, about the grandchildren who'd grow up knowing their parents had tried to steal from their grandfather. "No," I said. "I don't regret it." Even knowing what it cost? It didn't cost me anything I actually had. Lauren stopped being my daughter long before that night. I just finally admitted it to myself. "That's sad." "Yeah, but it's also true. We sat in silence, watching the sun set over the neighborhood. Somewhere down the street, kids were playing, their shouts and laughter carrying on the evening air. Life going on, indifferent to the small dramas playing out in individual homes. "The trial starts next month," Nora said. "I know. You'll have to testify." "I know. Are you ready for that?" I thought about standing in a courtroom, looking at Lauren across the aisle, recounting everything she'd done, everything she'd tried to do, knowing that my testimony would likely send her to prison. "Yes," I said. "I'm ready." The trial came faster than I expected. Derek and Lauren were tried together, their lawyers arguing that they'd acted out of genuine concern for my welfare, that everything had been a tragic misunderstanding blown out of proportion. The prosecution painted a different picture: calculated predators targeting a vulnerable elderly man, a conspiracy to defraud, a pattern of escalating intimidation and manipulation. I testified on the third day, walked through everything: the dinner, the phone call, the break-in, the documents, the threats. The defense attorney tried to rattle me, suggesting I was confused, that my memory was unreliable, that I'd misinterpreted innocent attempts to help. Then the prosecution played the recording from the restaurant. Derek's voice, clear and cold, detailing exactly how they'd challenge the trust, get me declared incompetent, force me into a facility, describing his contacts at the bank, his timeline for filing guardianship papers. The jury's faces said everything. Alan testified next, walking through the security footage, his observations, his certainty that the break-in was planned and deliberate. Then Martha, explaining the unauthorized inquiries and what they revealed about intent. Finally, Troy, nervous and sweating, detailing every conversation with Derek, every instruction, every escalation. The defense tried to paint him as a liar, cutting a deal, but the text messages backed up everything he said. Lauren took the stand in her own defense. It was a mistake. She tried to cry, to play the devoted daughter pushed to extremes by worry and love. But the prosecutor shredded her story, pointing out the timeline, the forged documents, the conversations with friends where she'd complained about me being stubborn rather than showing genuine concern. "Did you love your father?" the prosecutor asked. "Of course I did." "Did you break into his house?" "We were just checking on him." "With a key he didn't give you?" "He'd given it to us years ago, for emergencies." "And this was an emergency?" "We were worried about his mental state." "Worried enough to photograph his financial documents?" "We needed to understand his situation." "Worried enough to hire Troy Henson to intimidate him?" That's not what... "Worried enough to forge his signature on care facility applications." "Those were just drafts. We were researching options." "Worried enough to try to use his house as collateral without his knowledge or consent?" Lauren's composure cracked completely. "He's just one old man. The project would have helped hundreds of families. We were going to take care of him. He would have been fine." The courtroom went silent. Even her own lawyer looked horrified. "So, to be clear," the prosecutor said, "you believed your father's property rights were less important than your husband's business venture?" "That's not... I didn't mean... You believed you were entitled to his assets because he's old? He's my father. It would have been mine eventually anyway. So you decided to take it now?" "We were going to take care of him." But the damage was done. The jury had heard exactly what they needed to hear. The verdict came after 2 days. Guilty on all counts. Derek got 4 years, Lauren got 3, reduced only because she'd followed his lead. I sat in the courtroom and watched them taken away in handcuffs. Lauren looked back once, her face twisted with hatred and devastation. Derek stared ahead, defeated. Outside, reporters swarmed. Nora, Alan, and I pushed through without speaking and drove home in silence. That night, I took out the framed photo from Lauren's hallway, me holding her at 6, both of us laughing. I stared at it, trying to pinpoint when that little girl became someone who would try to steal my home. Maybe the entitlement had always been there. Maybe I'd refused to see it. Maybe both. I put the photo in a drawer. The next morning, an envelope arrived. No return address. Inside, 3 words in Lauren's handwriting. "I hope you're happy." I studied it, then tossed it into the fireplace and watched it burn. Was I happy? Not exactly, but I was free, safe, still in my own house, making my own choices. That was enough. Nora came downstairs and saw the ashes. "What was that?" "Nothing important." She understood instantly. She always did. "Alan's coming for dinner. I thought we'd grill." "Sounds good." "Walter?" "Yeah." "You did the right thing." I looked at her, this woman who'd stood by me through everything, who'd helped me plan, who never told me to surrender or make peace. "I know," I said. And I did. Lauren and Derek had made their choice. I was more useful as an asset than as a father. Their ambitions mattered more than my autonomy. They'd laughed when someone said a stranger was in my house. They'd never realized the real strangers were sitting at my table. Now they were gone. The house was quiet. The threats were over. The war was won. I pulled Nora close. Through the kitchen window, I saw my backyard, my neighborhood, my life, still mine, still under my control. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed. Someone else's crisis. Mine was over. I'd won.